Hi, in this video, we're going to configure the headup on the Palo Alto Firewall. Let's take a moment to configure Active Directory with some organizational units and groups, and of course, I'll explain what I'm doing so that when we apply the configuration to the firewall, you'll have a better overall understanding. If you're only interested in the headup configuration part, there's a timestamp and you can skip this section. So, it's the same lab as before, but this time it's a little different. We have this server running. All right, let's take the server and take a look. For convenience and speed, I've already created some users. The organizational units and groups are missing, but we'll create those together. So I created a user who 2FE. Then I created a no two-factor authentication user. I'll explain why later. Then, well, there's user1, and the HR user. We'll only use these: two-factor authentication, no-factor authentication, and the HR user. Inside the Crazynet user folder, I'm going to create another organizational unit. Here it is, and we'll call it HR. Let's also create two more organizational units and call them to all of our two-factor authentication users. And then finally, let's go ahead and proceed to create one last organizational unit with specifically all right users. Okay, at this particular point in time, let's proceed to create a new group. Here, it's very important to understand that groups, and please be careful with this distinction, groups and individual users are indeed two distinctly different entities, as you most probably already know. If by any chance you are not entirely familiar with this crucial difference, I would highly recommend watching the comprehensive video tutorial I previously created specifically about Active Directory. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and meticulously create a dedicated group for the purpose of organizing this particular group of users. And we'll call it the users. And here it is, right in this particular group's properties. And we're going to add something. The user, in this case, is H. Then here is two-factor authentication users. So we'll call the group just as a placeholder name 2FA. Users. Let's see if it lets me do that, since the organizational unit already has that name. Then, in this group, we'll add the user, two-factor authentication member. All right, so first we'll perform a quick check, a thorough verification of the name, and indeed here it is, perfectly in order, and everything seems to be absolutely fine. Then, as our final step, let's proceed to create yet another new and distinct group for our purposes, which is no2FA user, and okay, good. Now, we need to understand one thing. We need to create a user with read-only permissions. Normally, all domain users have read-only permissions, but you can be more specific. Username srv_Palo Alto. Now, in this lab, since it's just a demonstration, I'm going to set the password as admin123. But if this were in production, the password should be complex. Then also select user, cannot change the password, password never expires, admin123, admin1, okay, done. And that's it for Active Directory. Now, let's close this and go to our wonderful firewall, which is right here. Let me refresh the page because I'm not sure if it logged out automatically. Now, let's configure LDAP. To do this, click up here on Device, then click down at the bottom left on LDAP, then at the bottom Add, and we'll call it LDAP Server. Obviously, you can have more than one, so I'll use a generic name. Add name srv01_LDAP. IP, so my server is .80.100, port 389. Now for security, it would be better to configure LDAP with SSL/TLS. Then I uncheck require SSL/TLS. Type Active Directory. Bind, for now, I'll leave it blank. Then for bind DN, you have different options. You can either write everything manually or do it with username and password. We're going to do it with username and password. srv Palo Alto Crazynet.local password admin123. Now, if everything goes well, it should give us here the base DN distinguished name. DC equals Crazynet, Crazynet, DC equals local. And we select this and click OK. At this point, let's go to user identification, up here on the top left. Click on Add. Here, let's give it a name. In this case, it's the DP. SRV0 server profile LDAP server, which is the one we just created, groups. Then we click on group include list, and if everything goes well, it should show us the groups. And here are all the organizational units of our server. So we need to look for the organizational unit Crazynet. Then, as you can see here, there are some groups that, for example, are related to the video about the 802.1x protocol. So we have the first one, 2FA users, which is the two-factor authentication user group, and we click here on the plus sign. We select the group and then click plus, and we'll find it here on the right. Then HR, same thing, click on the group plus, and you'll find it here. And then we have these no two-factor authentication, and that's it. At this point, we're happy. These three groups are enough for us. Obviously, if you have more groups in your company, you need to add them all. Then at this point, let's go to authentication profile. Here, if you remember, in the previous video, we created the local users. Now let's go ahead and create the two users instead. So we click on add. Here, let's give it a name, for example, LDAP profile or users. For type, select LDAP server. This is very important. The login attribute needs to be written exactly as you see here because it's case sensitive, so it's summer then account name. This is used in Active Directory. It's an attribute that's used to identify users uniquely, then proceed to the advanced settings. Here, click on Add and assign the necessary permissions. Once this entire process has been successfully completed, we can then attempt to perform our login with the specific user, Valerio. We will now proceed to login, and let's carefully observe if it successfully works. It certainly appears that it works as intended. Once the system has fully logged into the firewall, it will present us for the very first time with a welcome message, because this is indeed the initial occasion I have logged in. So it will display the familiar and typical Palo Alto welcome window. And if we look closely at the bottom left corner of the screen, we will clearly find the currently logged in user Valerio in this specific instance. On this particular dashboard, we currently see admin, but we should in fact be seeing Valerio, which we will observe momentarily. It is perhaps a little slow at this precise moment because the specific model of this Palo Alto Firewall is inherently slow, even in a real-world scenario, plus it is running within a virtual machine environment, among other factors. So please exercise a little patience. Okay, we will ensure not to show this particular message again. And here at the bottom of the interface, we now distinctly find Valerio. We are now successfully able to log in with Valerio. Okay, let's navigate back to the authentication profile once more. We will then open our existing LDAP configuration and proceed to change its designated name. We will rename it to LDAP user to clearly indicate that the users belonging to that specific group are operating without multi-factor authentication, which is an important distinction for security purposes. If we wanted to implement multi-factor authentication, the same principle applies. Let's refer to it as LDAP users for two-factor authentication, or 2FA. The exact same configuration is needed. The LDAP server name, which we will simply call LDAP, and the attribute is SAM account name. It is absolutely crucial to be sure to meticulously respect both uppercase and lowercase letters for proper functionality. All users. Or if you want, here now this appears because it's loading. And you tell it two-factor authentication users. Or everyone, because in theory it should be everyone. Then now I'll explain to you why sometimes yes and sometimes no. We'll get to that. And then here we can set up two-factor authentication, which I'll show you in the next video, with Duo, because it was requested by a user in the Telegram group, so I'll do it specifically for Duo. So at this point, you just click OK. And here it shows up like this. Same thing here. It's the DAPI, right? I told it everyone, and by everyone, I mean literally everyone. But clearly here I can also say no to FA. Earlier, it didn't show me this when we configured it because it needs to load the data from Active Directory, and it's not exactly immediate. So we click OK. Now, what else can we do when we integrate the firewall with Active Directory? Referring back to the previous video, if I go to network, then to Global Protect portal, Crazynet portal, which is the same profile as last time, Authentication, Crazynet client, here you see there are local users because those are the firewall's local users. We want to use the Active Directory users, so let's create another one. We'll call it GP, which stands for Global Protect VPN User. Then here we select two-factor authentication and click OK. Simple. This way, when we try to connect with our VPN, it will ask for authentication with multi-factor. For now, I'll leave it like this. Then of course, I didn't mention this before, in the Active Directory configuration, we should also create another organizational unit, which I'll create now, even though I won't make the video for two-factor authentication, but you'll see it in the next video. So I'll create it now specifically for GP VPN users, because maybe you want only some users to be able to connect to the VPN, not all users. So you create a group where you'll then add the users you want. The last thing that's interesting to look at is the policy section with Active Directory. So as soon as it shows us the policies, as you can see, these are two very simple policies because this one allows all traffic from inside to outside, and that's the end of the story. So all users on this network can go wherever they want. Here too, on source users, we click add HR users. This is why earlier I created the unit, the human resources group HR. For destination, we can say any. Or if you have multiple zones, you can specify the particular destination zone. For example, let's put in a random address 168.90.0.0/24. Apply to any. Be careful here as well. With a legacy firewall, you just open and close ports and that's fine. With a next generation firewall like this one from Palo Alto, for example, it's better to authorize applications rather than just ports. But now I'll show you something that you might not know, so let me show you. For example, here we could allow SSL, so web traffic on port 443, and they would only be able to access sites over HTTPS and HTTP. No, then, if I remember correctly, for HTTP sites, it's called web browsing. This way it opens port 443 and port 80. We click OK and our user-based policy is done. Here it is, see? Users. So only the users in this group will be authorized to access that specific network with these specific applications. Let me show you just one last very important thing, which is this particular scenario. Let's say in many companies, sometimes or even quite often, in fact, it frequently happens that a specific site is configured as HTTPS. With an address like something local, followed by a colon, and then a port number, such as 4000. So what happens? With the policy we just created, we wouldn't be able to open that website. So in this case, we would need to give it application inspection here as well. So SSL. Then if we go to server, here we click add, and then we look for an available port, which is 4000. In this case, it's not there. I'll use 8080, which should be there. No, it's not. Okay, let's create it. File, new, TCP, 8080. Okay. So what does this mean? This means that HTTPS traffic is allowed and application inspection works on port 8080. And if he tries to open a regular website, for example, just the internet, he won't be able to open it. The application is tied to the port, so if the application doesn't match that specific port, in this case 8080, the access list won't work for you. And I'll remove this. So this is how it integrates with Active Directory. As you've seen, the configuration is very simple. The important thing and my advice is to carefully plan your Active Directory organizational units and Active Directory groups. This way, you'll be more efficient and effective when you go to select groups, because otherwise you might get a bit confused. That said, thank you for watching this video and see you next time. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like to support it. If you're not subscribed to the channel and you find these videos useful, subscribe to the channel.